Welcome back to News Talk. We're in Silver Spring outside the early voting center at the Silver Spring Civic Building. More on that as we continue. We want to turn our attention now, though, to that raucous hearing on Capitol Hill as members of Congress and leaders at WMATA traded barbs over the state of the beleaguered transit agency. It got testy in that hearing room as the accusations flew. We'll talk in a moment with Washington Post senior regional correspondent Robert Mccartney, but first the latest on what went down inside that hearing room from our man, Jay Korf.
The rhetoric at the House Oversight Committee hearing featuring Metro leaders was consistently blunt.
We have a Metro system in crisis.
Occasionally accusatory.
Next time something happens, I'm blaming it on you guys.
Often confrontational.
You know, if you want to get testy about it.
The stakes are as high as ever. The beleaguered transit system, now infamous for poor service and reliability, faces systemic safety and maintenance problems that endanger riders.
This system has become an embarrassment in the nation's capital.
Recent incidents of grave concern include a 29-hour system-wide shutdown for emergency inspections and last year's fatal smoke incident. One member of Congress made clear his expectations for new Metro GM Paul Wiedefeld.
Now, you're a new kid on the block, and we're counting on you. But I want people fired. I want something done.
When Metro Board Chair Jack Evans called on Congress to contribute $300 million annually, some panel members blasted Metro for poorly managing its finances.
I'm telling you, I am not going to bail you out.
After the bruising hearing, Wiedefeld insisted that riders will see clear improvements in time.
Will it be perfect? No. Will I have everything I want to achieve? Probably not. But there will be a difference.
Jay Korf reporting there. Joining us now, it's promised, Washington Post senior regional correspondent Robert Mccartney. Bob, thank you for your time. It's good
Bruce.
From a regional perspective. I was on the red line yesterday. My train got bogged down. I had an important meeting. I had to get off and grab a cab and run at much greater expense to my meeting, just as all of this was going on at the hearing that you were covering and that Jay Korf just reported on. Good that leaders at the federal level and that WMATA is stepping up and having to talk about all this stuff, but one has to wonder, did anything good, besides the bickering, was there anything positive to take from this?
Well, I think there were a couple of positive things. I think, first of all, Paul Wiedefeld, the new general manager, he got a fairly sympathetic reception. I mean, there was some badgering of him, but he's the new guy. He's only been there since November. He's very low-key. He's very straightforward. I think people want to give him a chance to succeed, and everything he said, was fairly reassuring. I think that the Congress people who were particularly, poised, or loaded to criticize WMATA, they mainly went after the board chair, Jack Evans, who gave it right back to them and basically said that they were getting a free ride. They get votes on the Metro board. They get half their workforce in Washington carried by Metro, but they don't contribute a penny to the operations of the system. And he basically said that should change. So I think that raised the issue. I think that the issue is out there about funding and inadequate funding more than it was before, and that's a positive thing. On the other hand, I think that the Republicans, especially the chairs of both the subcommittees who were holding the hearing, made pretty clear that they didn't want to give Metro any more money than it's already getting.
It's interesting, and you've reported on this, others have observed this. Metro needs more money, and Metro needs to get its act together in terms of safety and reliability and the state of its finances. They could have one, but if the other was not in place, whether talking about the money or the management reform, we would still be in a very difficult spot. We would still be facing challenges, and the two don't preclude each other. Did any of that flavor, did any of that reality, if you will, come out? And is that understood by folks who have an opportunity now, arguably, to set us on a better course?
Well, as I said, I think that the issue of the inadequate funding has been raised. I mean, mainly because of what Evans is doing. I mean, he's really, he pounded the table. I mean, he raised his voice. He got into it with Congressman John Mica from Florida about it, and a little bit with Mark Meadows from North Carolina as well. But I think that the basic dilemma that you described, which is they need to get their safety up to speed, they need to get their reliability up to speed, they need to fix their financial management, but it's hard to do that unless they have enough money. So there's a chicken and egg problem. I don't think that really came out much at this hearing, but it's well understood. But I don't think that needs to be a problem, really, at least for the next year or two. I mean, if they can get the financial management cleaned up, and they've already made progress on that, that would go a long way to reassuring people that if they do give them more money, then they'll handle it well. I mean, I think that's a really big priority on the financial side. And then I think if they can do what Wiedefeld says he's going to do, and we're going to hear much more about that very soon, probably in the next couple of weeks maybe, and really do a systematic, large-scale effort to improve, basically to catch up on overdue maintenance. I think that would help a lot on reliability. I think it would help a lot on convenience for people. And it's going to be inconvenient for a while because the system will be shut down more often than it is now, so they can do the maintenance. But if they catch up on that and there's visible progress on that, then I think that could lay the basis down the road for more money from Metro. Maybe not from Congress, especially as long as the Republicans control it. They're very skeptical of giving more money to anybody, and especially transit. But it certainly could lay the basis for giving more money from the region, which is another, which didn't really come up much yesterday, but that's another issue that's very much out there.
I used to think there was one person in Washington with the power to shut the federal government, that being the head of OPM, the Office of Personnel Management. As one of our guests recently observed, it now appears there are two people, the head of OPM and the head of Metro, because when Paul Wiedefeld decided that there was so much track work of an emergency nature to be done, inspections of cabling, and then, depending on what they found, subsequent urgent repair, we now know that the head of Metro has that power too, underscoring the importance of the region's rail system to the federal government. So we're all in this together. What are you looking for going forward, Bob?
Okay, well, I'm looking forward, first of all, to hearing Wiedefeld's plan for catching up on the overdue maintenance. That's number one. I mean, he's supposed to tell us that pretty soon. There'll be disruptions, but if, hopefully they'll actually get the work done, and they'll do it in a systematic way, which they haven't been doing it before, according to Wiedefeld. I would be looking for also for the region, Virginia, Maryland, and the district, to really talk seriously and together about some kind of dedicated funding source, a region-wide sales tax or a tax or fee on property that's close to metro stations. In other words, the commercial real estate people who make a lot of money because their buildings are more attractive because of their location near to metro stations, could they pay more to contribute?
So building in some new dedicated source
of funding
over the long term.
Yeah, Evans says that they need $1 billion a year from a dedicated source of funding for repairs and maintenance and also expansion. I mean, this would help pay for a second tunnel under the Potomac to get rid of one of the biggest bottlenecks, which is that Roslyn Tunnel, the only tunnel they've got between Roslyn and Foggy Bottom. But then,
thank you, Bob. Bob Mccartney of the Washington Post, as always. Appreciate very much your time. We're back with more News Talk right after this.